Carolyn, we start talking about planning for a cyber attack, one of the things that you universally read about are incident response plans. Can you talk a little bit about what does that mean? How important it is to make sure that those plans are frequently looked at, they're up to date. Can you give us some insight into how they fit into the overall risk management puzzle for an organization?
Sure, they're absolutely critical. I always say it's the first line of defense. But when it comes to incident response planning, the thing is, you just don't want to be putting yourself in a position that you don't know what you're going to be doing next, right? You want to have an understanding as to who the players are going to be in the room and what you want to do in the event of an incident. And it could be, just something as, wire transfer fraud, business email compromise, all the way up to a ransomware event. And the last thing that you want to be doing when those kind of incidences occur is kind of scramble. And who do I need to call? Who's going to be, who am I going to be riling in from all of the people? What am I going to be doing to put my business in the best position, right? So in order to do so, you have an incident response plan. Well, what does that mean, right? Number one, figure out who the key players are within your organization who need to be making the decisions, right? You're talking about, if you have an internal communications department, great, they should be in there. IT, always critical, right? Because they're going to know, kind of where your golden ticket items are. They're going to know the amount of servers that you have. They're going to know the amount of endpoints that you have. They're also probably going to know where your sensitive information is held. Always critical. And then the people making decisions, whether that be your, do you have a CISO? Do you have a chief security officer? Do you have, the president of the organization is most likely going to be making some of those decisions as well, especially when it comes to, in the event that you do have to make payment or talk about payments to a threat actor. You want to have those people in the room as well. We talked about the communications, but also HR. If you have to communicate with your employees, that's somebody that you definitely want to have in the room as well. So those are the kind of critical key players that an organization definitely wants to have in terms of key critical decision makers when these kind of incidences occur. The other ones that you want to have in terms of your incident response plan is your broker. You want to make sure that you have the phone number and email of your broker of who to call in the event of an incident, because they're going to be able to help you not only just from the coverage perspective, but also help you in terms of who to call and what to do next, right? But you make sure that you have, their emails, phone numbers, whatever that may be, because these incidences, it's always wonderful when they occur at, 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, but most likely they're occurring in the middle of the night or on a weekend, or my favorite, which is a holiday, right? So you want to make sure that you have everybody's phone number, email address when these kind of situations occur. The next one that you're going to want to have in terms of a player into your incident response plan is your insurance company, right? In terms of making sure that you have that claim and, who to call in terms of the claim information. So in the event of an incident, a lot of the, from an insurance company perspective, had those 24/7 hotlines. Like I said, these things happen on nights and weekends. So make sure to have those phone numbers and email addresses, because usually those are directed to Breach Coach Counsel, who would then coordinate efforts with Bill, with Charles River Associates and the forensics teams, right? So all the more critical to have all of that information from an initial standpoint, so then you can hit the ground running. And my first tip of the day will be please print out these incident response plans. You don't know how many times, I know it sounds really corny, but the amount of times that people say, I have these wonderful incident response plans. We utilize them all the time. We change them, because the thing is that, and you had mentioned it earlier, always to test these kinds of things, because things change on a momentary basis. We have threat actors. We have different tactics that come up with threat actors that we're going to be talking a little bit about. And all these things change on a daily basis practically. So please print this information out. So in the event it's not stuck up in the cloud, right, with all of the encrypted files in the event of a ransomware incident. The other piece would also be, you might not have access to email. So make sure that you have everybody's cell phone numbers, right? Personal cell phone numbers, because sometimes you get locked out of systems and you might not have access to email. So certainly something to be thinking about.
It sounds so simple, but you think about how frequently we rely on our phones and our computers, that how would I contact someone if I didn't have their information?
Exactly.
What am I doing?
Absolutely.
One of the things you talked about was testing it, and you read often about tabletop exercises, and what does that mean? What is the objective of the tabletop exercise? What's the end goal? And all of those players that you mentioned, should all those people be there? Should they be consulted? Things like that.
Absolutely. So the purpose behind a tabletop exercise is really to test your incident response plan. We do this all the time. I work with Bill, and what we do is we actually go through a mock exercise. So we literally go through and say, hey, look, you're infected with a ransomware situation. Let's see what you can do and if your incident response plan can be tested accordingly. And like I said, these things change. And by the way, employees change too, right? So, sometimes the critical key players that may have been, essential 3-4 months ago might not be the same essential players right now. So it's certainly something that we want to be, consistently updating and making to work through. But absolutely, the whole purpose behind a tabletop exercise is to make sure that you're in the best scenario and best prepared.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, you can click through to the next video right here. Also, if you'd like to stay up to date on more videos like this, like, subscribe, and follow.